can't believe that I'm here doing this. You know, we started planning this march a few months ago, and to see you all in front of me now is incredibly humbling.
Today shows in our numbers of 5,000 that we are truly not alone, and that every time we go out and fight other animals, we fight with thousands, tens of thousands of people behind us. We fight united as a community.
Will rise. Now we as a movement exist in the millions of individuals, but together we move as one. And as one, we cannot be stopped. We will not be stopped. And these industries, the ones who exploit others, they feel what we feel, and they fear it. And they fear us. And they should fear us. For every single day, our numbers grow stronger, our conviction grows harder, and that change becomes ever more inevitable than it was the day previous. And they fear us because they know that we will not stop fighting, that we will never take a day's rest, and we will never take a day's break until the animals are liberated from the shackles that our species has imprisoned them within. But the fight that we face is not a fight of violence. It's not a fight against nations or religions. It is a fight against ignorance and apathy. And the only weapon that we need is the truth and a voice from which we are obliged to speak it. And we must speak that truth. With every second of life that we are given, we must speak that truth. The world that we want, that vegan world, exists out there in front of us in the palm of our hands. And all we have to do is reach out and take it. It's not going to be given to us. No one is going to hand it to us, but there it exists in front of each and every one of us, waiting for us to seize it. So feel it, believe in it, see it, manifest it, but importantly, create it, make it, take it. The world that we want, we decide when it is created. And every time that we rise up and we stand up and we speak together and we fight for what must be fought, we bring that world closer and closer to the present day. The future will one day speak of a seemingly small group of people who saw the world for the violent place that it was and said that they would no longer only talk about ending suffering and oppression, they would instead demand it. And the future will see that that small group of people grew larger and larger and larger until one day their demands were met. And in that moment, when those demands were met, humanity looked at the things they'd done to non-human animals with disgust and disdain and with guilt. And they said, non-human persons, the lives of non-human persons should be treated with the same value and respect that we assign to our own lives. In that moment, we will realize that non-human persons place a unique value on their life in the same way that we place a unique value on our life. Now I want to talk about a place that I visited last year, one of the many hellholes that exists on this planet. I visited a dairy farm, and we walked into the dairy farm during the day, and we walked around and we filmed the animals as we saw them in their prisons. And we came across a pen, and in this pen there was a mother and the mother's baby. Now the farmers knew that we were there. They'd seen us, and they didn't seem to mind about us being there. And they told us they were going to take the baby away from their mother. And now we knew this is what happened in the dairy industry. We knew that every single calf that was born was taken away from their mother, normally within 24 to 72 hours of birth. And so we were faced with a dilemma. Do we leave or do we stay? Now we could leave and pretend that that suffering didn't exist. But to turn a blind eye to suffering does not mean that that suffering no longer exists. We must not turn away with our eyes what they are forced to endure with their bodies. And so we decided to stay and to see and to film and to bear witness to the suffering that was about to commence. And so I filmed as the farmer came into the pen, and he took the calf and he threw the calf into the trolley, and he wheeled the trolley with the calf away. I followed the mother, and I followed the mother as far as she could go until the farmer closed the gate on her. I looked into the mother's eyes, and I saw pain, I saw fear, I saw anguish, I saw her pleading for help, but I saw confusion. She had no idea why this was happening to her. No one could explain why we did these things to her. No animal in these situations understands why. And I thought about all the times I've been most scared in my life, and I thought that often confusion was coupled with fear. And when confusion is coupled with fear, it makes the fear feel so much more intensified, because we don't understand what's happening and we don't understand what's about to happen next. I followed where the baby had been taken to a solitary confinement pen, and I sat in front of that baby, and I put my hands through the bars, and I carefully stroked the top of that baby's head. I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "I'm sorry you're here. I'm sorry this is the life that you have been given. I'm sorry for the plight that you have been forced to face because of the actions of the species that I belong to." But then I felt like a hypocrite. It felt disingenuous for me to say sorry when I could take my arm out of that prison and leave and walk whenever it is that I wanted to. I could go home, live my life, have fun, spend time with friends and family, sleep in a comfortable bed and do the things that I wanted to do. But that prison, for that baby in front of me in that moment, was eternal. Their life would only ever be a prison until the day that they died. And so I stood up and I said to myself, animals do not need our pity. They do not need our words, and they do not need our sorrow. Pity will not save these beings. These animals need us to fight and stand up for them and take action. And so I said to myself, I need to be held accountable for the actions that I make in the future, so that when I leave here today, I don't just go about my ordinary life. That when I leave here today, I remember the plight of that animal, and I never forget the plight of that animal. So as I stood there in front of the calf, I made a vow to myself. I made a vow to hold myself accountable with every second of life that I am given from this moment on. I said that as long as blood is pumped through my veins and oxygen flows through my lungs, with every second of life that I am given, I will fight, because my life is a privilege. And with that privilege that I have been given, I am obliged to fight for those whose freedom has been denied to. I made a vow that with every second of life that I am given, I will fight for those who need me to fight for them most. And so I ask you now, when you leave here today, will you stand up proudly? Will you hold your chest up proudly and hold your head up high? Will you stand up? Will you speak up? Will you defiantly walk towards the road of animal liberation? Our life is not just our own. Our existence is a vessel through which we are morally obliged to create positive change. Use the life that you have to create a world where compassion, tolerance, and equality are no longer considered extreme or militant, but are instead the foundations and baseline for a just and fair society. We are here today for the calves taken away from their mothers. We are here today for the hens who are exploited for their eggs. We are here today for the chickens who are exploited and murdered for their flesh. We are here today for the pigs who are locked in farrowing crates. We are here today for the lambs on the way to the slaughterhouse, and we are here today for the millions upon trillions of animals who are mercilessly dragged out of the ocean, the marine animals who are killed without any dignity or respect. We're here today for all the animals tortured in laboratories, for all the animals abused and tormented in zoos and circuses and aquariums. We're here today for all the animals who are plucked and sheared and skinned and murdered for their flesh, their feathers, their fur and their wool. We are here today for every single animal who is commodified, mutilated, exploited, used and murdered at the hands of our species. So will you make that vow? Will you pledge to fight with every ounce of strength that you have, to fight with the freedom that you have, to make sure that those who are denied their freedom will one day in the future have the freedom that they deserve? Because that's the vow that I made to that calf. I said that although I cannot save you in this moment, I will fight to make sure that future exists where no other animal will have to suffer in the same way that you are today. Now, what lies ahead of us will not always be easy. We will feel pain, we will feel anguish, we will feel despair, and we may even feel hopelessness. These industries will spread lies. They will try to scam people. They will try to deceive us. They will question our integrity. They will question our individual characteristics and our motives, and they will try and drag our image through the mud to try and make us no longer credible. But we have one thing, the truth. And that is all that we need. For too long, these industries have deceived the public. They have lied and manipulated and scammed us. But we will no longer tolerate that. We look at these industries and we look these people in the eye and we say, no more will you be allowed to commit these transgressions upon those beings that exist on this planet alongside us, not for us. So come together. Fight together, because when we do so, when we fight in unison and as one, we can change the world. And we must change the world. The animals need us. They need you. So what will you do from tomorrow onwards? The path that we walk down together does not last forever. And at the end of that path is total salvation and liberation. So never look back. Only ever look forward and defiantly march as fast as you can towards the end of that road, to ensure those animals who are screaming in terror in this very second, to ensure that one day their screams will be silenced, not because of knives, but because of liberation. And so I ask you this one final question. Are you with me?
Humans have found a way to exploit and endanger almost every other species on this planet. It's because of us that they are suffering, and it's up to us to make it stop.
We are all here because we see a better, more compassionate future. A future where all animals and humans have the right to life and freedom, because there is no excuse for their suffering. Today mark the start of your actions. Let today mark the start of the change in your community. Let today be the day that we show the world that we will not be silent, and we will not back down, and we will fight until every cage is empty, until everyone is home.
Aren't you angry enough? The British state has kidnapped animal rights activist Sven van Hasselt and will keep him for 5 years based on a law specifically tailored to stop him and his co-workers from bringing a vivisection company to the ground. The German government has taken UP3 behind bars because she dared to protect nature. The states have taken Red Fawn, Joseph Dibby, Walter Bond, Marius Mason, and an uncountable number of people because they dared to act for a better world. Doesn't that make you angry enough? 431 animals in the UK have been reported as liberated, and 20,000 partridges were released to the wild since the last AR march. 431 animals, plus as many unreported ones, plus the sabotage of traps and shooting towers, butcher shops, meat trucks, and an uncountable list of actions to further the cause of animal liberation. This amalgamation of actions between the overground and underground scene is key to revolution. Diversity of tactics was, is, and will be the only way to achieve systematic change.
What's she on about? Well, I'll explain it to you. Just listen out. Every day, animals are suffering because of human greed. We are taking from the earth stuff that we don't really need. We exploit other beings, and not just for food. Cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, circuses and zoos, and bullfighting and pony rides and elephant rides too. And dolphins in the pool to entertain those like you. If you want a thrill, then go to a theme park. Don't hurt animals. Have compassion, have a heart. Stop using animals in your everyday. They are not at your disposal. They have a life and brain, unlike many zombie humans who just follow the crowd. But I am a rebel, and I am proud. So move your flat to the ground. Don't believe everything they tell you at school. Stand up for what is right. Be different. It's cool. Rising! We are powerful! We are the truth!
And that's why it's so important today to unite, speak for the voiceless, and also to speak to the small voice within each other that says, this is wrong, and I want to change things, so that those voices become stronger, louder, and more people listen to their own small inner voice and have the courage to say, I'm with you. I want to talk about empathy as well, and how it's our nature to care for other people and beings when we feel for them. Empathy, to be clear, is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. How much more peaceful and connected the world would be if we could all feel what the other's feeling, if we could all understand the roots of each other's pain. Instead of judging each other and feeling threatened by our otherness, we'd want to give each other a hug. Instead of alienating from each other, judging, tearing down, shunning, we would uplift, protect, encourage, and nurture each other. I can't help but feel that empathy is the quality most needed in our world. It's the quality I see in abundance in the animal rights community. We don't have a magical ability to feel each other's feelings, as in sensei, but we all have empathy within us, and we all can exercise this quality further to achieve a society that is more respectful, more tolerant, and more compassionate towards otherness, towards other religions, towards other genders, towards other races, and today and every day towards other species. Where society once disconnected us from our natural empathic impulses as children, in caring for animals we reclaim that empathy. And now it's time to practice extending our circle of empathy further than before, because it is the quality most needed in this world. I'm almost done. I'd also like to touch on extending that empathy to our fellow humans, which, alongside our outrage for animals oppressed by humanity, is a tricky balance to strike. But it's vital in our quest for animal liberation. We need to connect with others who see animals differently first, in order to open their minds and help them make the connection. That is, as I see it, the nuanced, complicated, but vital work of the animal rights movement. I also just want to say how much I admire each and every one of you who showed up today. The bravery, imagination, and optimism it takes to be fed a world one way and to say, I'd like it to be different, better, kinder, is truly awe-inspiring. I want to thank you for listening to my speech and for making this community so inspiring and powerful, and to send you love and strength as you continue to spread the message of equality for animals. Thank you.